At 3 weeks old, your baby is entering one of the most intense and most misunderstood periods of early development. This is the week when many parents find things suddenly feel harder, not easier, and there is a very good reason for that. Week 3 marks a significant shift in the newborn experience. The early adjustment of the first 2 weeks is over, and your baby's brain and nervous system are now entering a period of rapid, accelerating growth. With that growth comes something that surprises many families: more crying, more fussiness, more difficulty settling. This is not a sign that something is wrong. This is a sign that something very right is happening. Your baby's brain is working overtime. Let me explain exactly what is developing this week, so that what you are experiencing makes sense. By week 3, most babies are gaining weight steadily and consistently, typically around 5 to 7 ounces per week. You may begin to notice the first subtle signs of your baby filling out: slightly rounder cheeks, a little more weight in the limbs. Newborns at this stage are still small, but the rapid growth of these early weeks is visible if you know what to look for. Your baby's umbilical cord stump, if it hasn't already, should fall off around this time. Once it does, you can begin giving your baby proper immersion baths. Warm, shallow water, gently supporting the head and neck throughout. Many babies find the sensation of warm water deeply soothing, and bath time can become a reliable part of your calming routine. Head control is continuing to develop, though it remains very limited in week 3. During tummy time, your baby may now be able to briefly lift their head to a 45-degree angle, a small but meaningful increase from the first 2 weeks. The neck muscles are strengthening with every tummy time session, and this progress, though it looks modest, is laying the foundation for all future gross motor development. You may also notice that your baby's hands are beginning to open slightly more often. In the first 2 weeks, newborns keep their fists tightly closed for much of the time. In week 3, you may occasionally see the hands relax and open. This is a subtle sign of the nervous system maturing, the gradual release of the newborn flexion posture that the body has maintained since the womb. Week 3 is a pivotal moment in newborn brain development, and understanding what is happening neurologically will help you make sense of your baby's behavior this week. Your baby's brain is growing at an extraordinary rate. Faster, in fact, than it will at any other point in the entire lifespan after birth. Neural connections are being formed at a pace of roughly 1 million new synaptic connections per second. The sensory areas of the brain, vision, hearing, touch, are developing rapidly, and your baby is becoming increasingly sensitive to the world around them. This increased sensitivity is precisely why week 3 can feel more difficult than weeks 1 and 2. Your baby is now taking in more information, processing more stimulation, and working harder to make sense of their environment. Their threshold for overstimulation is still very low, and yet the world is becoming more vivid and intense to them by the day. This mismatch between a rapidly expanding sensory world and a still immature regulatory system is at the heart of what makes week 3 challenging. The brain's stress response system is also active this week. When your baby becomes overstimulated or overtired, their body releases cortisol, the stress hormone, and their nervous system enters a state of heightened arousal. This is why an overtired baby can seem paradoxically harder to settle than a merely tired one. Their stress system has been activated, and bringing it back down takes time and consistent soothing. What helps the developing brain most in week 3 is exactly what it needed in weeks 1 and 2, only more so. Responsive caregiving, consistent holding, familiar voices, and predictable sensory input. Your baby's brain is building the neural pathways for regulation, the ability to move from a state of distress back to a state of calm. Every time you help your baby make that transition, you are reinforcing those pathways. Week 3 brings a fascinating development in your baby's social awareness. Their visual acuity is improving, and they are now able to focus on your face with greater clarity and for slightly longer periods than before. You may notice something beautiful happening during feeding or quiet holding time. Your baby staring at your face with an expression of intense concentration. They are learning the geography of you, the specific arrangement of your features, the way your expressions move, the particular quality of your gaze. This is not passive observation, it is active learning. Some babies begin to show the very earliest hints of a pre-smile in week 3. A fleeting upward movement of the corners of the mouth that happens during alert, face-to-face interaction. This is not yet the full social smile, which comes around 6 weeks. But it is the neurological groundwork being laid. The brain is rehearsing the connection between seeing a familiar, safe face and producing a positive facial response. Crying typically peaks somewhere between 3 and 6 weeks of age. Many pediatric researchers and clinicians describe this as the purple crying period, a normal developmental phase in which crying increases, peaks, and then gradually decreases. The acronym stands for peak of crying, unexpected, resists soothing, pain-like face, long-lasting, and evening clustering. Understanding that this is a normal, finite developmental phase, not a reflection of your parenting, not a sign of illness, can be genuinely helpful when you are in the middle of it. The primitive reflexes remain active in week 3, but something new is beginning to emerge alongside them. The very earliest signs of intentional behavior. In the first 2 weeks, your baby's behavior was almost entirely reflex-driven. In week 3, you may begin to notice moments where your baby seems to be making a choice, turning their head not just in response to a touch on the cheek, but in the direction of your voice, pausing their movements when you speak, as if listening. These are subtle, brief, easily missed, but they are significant. The transition from purely reflex-driven behavior to the earliest forms of intentional, voluntary behavior is one of the most important developmental shifts of the entire newborn period. Your baby's hearing is also becoming more discriminating this week. They are not just responding to sound. They are beginning to show preferences. Your voice, in particular, continues to be the most compelling sound in their world. Research has shown that newborns at this age will actually alter their sucking patterns on a pacifier in order to trigger a recording of their mother's voice, demonstrating that they actively seek it out, not just respond to it passively. In my clinic, week 3 is the appointment I prepare for most carefully, because it is the week when I most often see parents who are beginning to doubt themselves. They come in looking exhausted, often emotional, sometimes genuinely frightened. Their baby is crying more than before. Nothing seems to work. They have read that things should be getting easier, and instead they feel harder. And they want to know what they are doing wrong. My answer is always the same. You are not doing anything wrong. Week 3 is harder by design. The developmental demands on your baby's brain this week are immense, and the behavioral expression of that is increased fussiness and crying. This is not a parenting failure. This is a developmental milestone, one that requires your patience, your consistency, and your trust that this phase is temporary. It always passes. And in my experience, the parents who come through week 3 with the most confidence are those who stopped trying to fix the crying and started simply staying present through it. A question I hear very often at this stage is, could my baby have colic? How would I know? Colic is defined as crying for more than 3 hours per day, more than 3 days per week, for more than 3 weeks in an otherwise healthy baby. It affects roughly 1 in 5 babies and typically begins around 2 to 3 weeks of age, peaking around 6 weeks and resolving by 3 to 4 months. The honest truth about colic is that it remains incompletely understood. It is not caused by bad parenting, by feeding choices in most cases, or by anything you have done wrong. Current research suggests that colic is likely related to the immaturity of the infant nervous system and gut, and possibly to the normal developmental peak in crying that all babies experience to varying degrees. If your baby is crying extensively and you are concerned, please see your pediatrician. It is important to rule out any medical causes, reflux, food protein intolerance, or other conditions before concluding that what you are dealing with is colic. Your instincts matter. If something feels wrong beyond normal fussiness, have it checked. If week 3 is feeling hard, I want you to hear this clearly. It is supposed to feel hard. Not because you are failing, but because what your baby is going through this week is genuinely demanding, and your nervous system is picking that up. Every baby moves through this phase differently. Some babies are significantly fussier in week 3. Others show only a modest increase in crying. The variation is wide and normal. What remains constant is that this period is temporary and developmental. It has a beginning and it has an end. Hold your baby, respond to their cries. Trust that your presence is the most powerful regulatory tool available to them. You do not need to fix the crying. You need to be with your baby through it. Week 3 is one of the most demanding weeks of the newborn period, and also one of the most important. The growth happening in your baby's brain right now is laying the foundation for everything that follows. Emotional regulation, social connection, language, learning. In our parent guide video for week 3, we will talk about specific strategies for managing increased fussiness, how to recognize and prevent overstimulation, and how to support your own mental and emotional health through this challenging week. Subscribe to Tiny Steps Weekly so you never miss a video, because every tiny step matters.